This is Positive Solace with Attika Choudhary.
My first podcast for season 3. We are finally here. Armeena Khan is a famous Pakistani and Canadian actress, nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the Lux Style Awards, which is a pretty big deal in Pakistan. And it's kind of like the equivalent of the Oscars, I would say. She has starred in hit films such as Bin Roy and Janand. And Armeena is a passionate advocate and an ambassador, supporting the work of the charity it aims to restore sight and change lives in Pakistan with the Graham Layton Trust. She's a trendsetter, a trailblazer, and a mum. She's done it all. Oh, and she's had a few interesting tropes along the way. Armeena's currently taking a break, but evolving still while focusing on growing her family. She's just a remarkable woman. And she has accomplished all of this in the midst of a culture which doesn't exactly prize ambitious women. So let's get into it, Armeena. How are you doing?
Attika. Good. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I'm humbled. Thank you so much.
It's true. I'm saying what is true.
Thank you. I think, compliments are, they're beautiful, but sometimes they're just hard to take when you don't take yourself that seriously. But thank you so much.
Well, I've learned one thing, and I think I said this the other day, actually on my podcast. I have learned to take compliments and say thank you now, like you just said, because if someone says them, no matter what they are thinking or what you are thinking, always say thank you and appreciate that. Yeah. And I'm definitely saying that. So thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have this chat with you. It's been a very difficult last few years for all of us. And I think perhaps difficult for you, but how's life been for you? And you're a mum now, congratulations.
Thank you so much. It feels so surreal. Oh my gosh, I can't even put words into how I feel. And I look at her face every day and I'm like, oh my God, I created that. This is a human being that's come out of me. What? It's an unbelievable feeling to just see that little smile and that little face. I can't articulate it. Honestly, you just have to really go through it to really understand that feeling. But yeah, it's unbelievable and I love it. I think it's the biggest achievement of my life thus far.
You say it's your biggest achievement, which is amazing to hear. So how has it been? I mean, I know that we've been having these conversations and I came to find that you had a very difficult period whilst you were pregnant. Would you mind sharing that with us a little bit?
Yes. So this is probably the first podcast where I'm publicly going to talk about this. It was brilliant to start off with. It was your textbook pregnancy. I had the glow, I had the beautiful hair, I had a lot of energy. It was, I think I was even climbing mountains on my baby moon in Crete, floating away in the oceans, just, dreaming of baby basically. And then bam, week 30, I'm hit with high blood pressure, hypertension, and pre-eclampsia. And I'm like, oh, okay, so this is how it's going to be. So it's me. Of course, it's going to happen to me. So it wasn't a term that I was familiar with, but it started off with seeing that my hands, they'd swollen 4 times their size. My face had swollen up, my feet had swollen up, and I just felt this intense pain in my kidneys. So I went into A&E and they conducted a comprehensive sort of blood on me. And then it came back with that I've developed pre-eclampsia, which is a condition, as you know, of the placenta. And it can have varying effects, like it can affect your blood pressure, which is the main consequence of it. But then there are other things like placental abruptions, which means that the placenta can detach from the wall of the womb and the baby can literally pass away inside of you. So it was quite serious. But I was in just such a surreal, I was floating throughout the whole experience. I just didn't feel the seriousness of it because I was focused at the end result. I'm like, okay, So I went into practical mode, how we're going to deal with this. So I read up on it and I armed myself with whatever information that I could get hold of, the right questions to ask, and how I could minimize the damage. And that's where we had to make the most difficult decision of my life, where we had to deliver her a little bit earlier. So she was due in December, but she came 5 weeks too early. And I can't even talk about all the plethora of emotions that I was going through as she was being delivered.
Yeah.
But the moment I saw her, I forgot all the pain, all the disappointment. That, there was a moment in time I allowed myself that feeling, because it's important that you allow. We'll talk about that, the healing bit, in a little bit. But week 35 was a series of peaks and troughs for me, where it was a downer one day. Is she going to live? Am I going to live? Are we both going to live? So these were the questions that were continuously in my mind. But then, each day, we took it each day as it came. And I was just grateful for every hour almost that I had her. And then once week 35 came, and we were progressing and she was delivered, there was a sense of relief, and I was grateful that she's here. And there was a sense of, I was healing almost. She was giving me that power. And I felt, now from this point on, whatever it is, let's tackle this together. She's here. We made this decision to deliver her, and it was difficult, but here we are. And let's see what the next juncture brings. So we went into caregiving mode. I'll be honest, I had no time to think about bonding or anything. It was very much, okay, what next? What next? What next? And then as I floated through that, it was only a few weeks after that she was delivered that the whole thing hit me like a train. It was a delayed reaction, because I do this. I compartmentalize my feelings, and then I undo them when I've got a little bit of time, because at that moment, I just put all my attentions to what needs to be dealt with and where. So a few points in regards to the pregnancy. It was excellent before the care. I mean, it was excellent at the hospital prior to the delivery, but afterwards I found it a little bit lacking. Knowing what I knew, all the information that I had, I just feel like there's certain people who should not be in the caregiving business. And then others, they're just meant for it. So it was a balance of light and darkness, but overall, it's the most amazing experience of my life. And I would do it all over again, if you ask me. I think just seeing that little smile, I keep saying the smile, because this is a milestone. Because, premature babies, they don't reach milestones like your regular babies do. They're behind developmentally. So I have to just bear with it and be patient. But yeah, so I saw her first smile just a few days ago, and my heart nearly just exploded. So it was a beautiful feeling.
Being a mum is a blessing, and to have a baby. And I think a lot of people sugarcoat the fact that pregnancy is sometimes very easy, and you see celebrities and they're having they look great and they're glowing and you were looking glowing. I remember seeing a photo of you, but she looks amazing, she's glowing, but you don't know what's happening behind the scenes. You don't know what's happening behind those social media. Social media plays an element of that, but behind the scenes we have no idea. And I had no idea that you were going through that until I think when you gave birth, and then I spoke to you. That's the only time I realized how difficult it was for you. But none of us knew. I mean, you had this beautiful face and you were being strong out there for everyone else, but for sharing that information with us, I think it would help a lot of other women, what they go through. And how was your mental health during this period?
So like I said, I didn't really pay attention to any of that. I was
Yeah.
literally in caregiving mode that okay, we need to take it hour by hour when she was born because it was sad thinking. I mean, I still get a little bit triggered thinking about that because I didn't know whether she was going to be with us the next hour. So I was grateful for every hour that she was with us. The
Mm.
next day, the following day, then it turned into a week. All right, okay. So any sort of little bit of anxiety that I had, it started like going down as she progressed.
Mm.
Um, it's very important to know your rights, to know what motherhood is, because it's not for everyone. Honestly, it's parenting is something, and I've thought about this. Parenting is probably the most difficult job and the one that's the most underplayed. People don't talk about it enough. Being a mom is, and I say this because I've had a taste of so many different careers, if you like, throughout my life.
Mm.
And this is the hardest thing I've had to do, but also the most rewarding. I love my child, but there are mental health aspects to this where there are dark days and then there are good days. But then I also feel that to experience the good days, you have to savor them. You have to go through the darkness almost to
Mm.
make it that much more delicious. But with a premature child, it becomes the challenges become twofold. And I almost feel all women go through some semblance of postnatal depression, but they're not always able to identify it.
Mm.
And I didn't realize that I had a little bit of it until weeks after when everything calmed down. And I remember one day I just sat there and burst into tears, and all these hormones just hit me. All this feeling just hit me, and I couldn't make any sense of it. But then I realized I'd gone through quite a challenging phase of my life, and I just hadn't realized it because I decided to be brave and just put on my blinkers and just go with it. It's very important to keep an eye on the upstairs because you can easily lose control of them. There's so many mothers out there who are afraid to talk about it.
Mm.
They've got no one to talk to. I have friends from within the Muslim community that I was talking to, and they said to me, you know, you're so brave talking about this so openly to us, whereas we can't even speak about it to our husbands, whatnot. So I felt like I had a strong network of friends and I had strong support. So that's where um, I didn't feel the full impact of it, and I caught it the moment I was aware of it, that okay, this is creeping in and I need to nip this in the bud right now.
Mm.
And so you know, you just get the appropriate help, or there's like lots of self-help tools around that. There's a whole treasure trove of knowledge out there. You just have to identify your symptoms and then deal with what it is that's the most challenging bit. So for
Yeah.
me, it was I had an anxiety around her growth because she was so tiny. I couldn't even hold her. She was that
Oh.
small. So it took a while, and every 3 hours we'd have to feed her, so we weren't getting any sleep. So sleep deprivation is a thing as well that obviously contributes to the, you know, sleep is important to heal.
Mm.
Then she was delivered obviously via C-section, so the healing, it was taking place simultaneously. So that was quite tough. I just hadn't realized it at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's a lot of things to unpack there. I suppose we could talk about that.
How are you doing now, though?
Good. A lot better, thank you. And I think she's growing beautifully, and with each passing day, I feel like my worries are lessened around that as she grows. And I'm dreaming about A future full of rainbows and clouds.
I'm coming with you, by the way. Can I
Please
join?
do. It's a beautiful place.
Well, I'm going to come and see you both anyway, inshallah, soon. And you talk about the network and friends, and I know you're private about your private life, but you've got an amazing husband. I have met him many times, and how's he been? How's he been finding all of this?
So for men, it's obviously a little bit different because they've not carried the child. So, they only know, they can feel the kicks, and it's like, okay, there is something there.
Yeah.
But it truly hit him once she was here, and he was just holding her in disbelief. Because the funny thing is, there's something called skin to skin as soon as the baby's born, especially if they're delivered via C-section or if they're premature. So then there is something called kangaroo care, and part of that is giving the child skin to skin with the mom, preferably, to calm them, to soothe their nerves, etc. Because they've just come into the world suddenly, they were not ready for it, right? The little baby, so to encourage. I was very nauseous at the time when she was delivered, so I was throwing up literally. So he had to take charge of that aspect. And she was all covered in my vernix, and he was like, "What? Okay, hi."
Welcome to the father's world.
He told me after the fact that he just looked at her and he's like, "What is this child? What is she mine?" There was this whole like truckloads of feelings that hit him as well. But men don't really talk about their feelings much, and I had to get it out of him. I'm like, "Speak to me. What are you thinking?" And it really affected him as well. Downright to, it caused him a lot of pain to see his child like that in the NICU, because she was in there for a couple of days. So it's not a great feeling watching your child suffering like that. And for him, I can't explain it. For him, it's also his greatest treasure, he calls her, in the world. He's like, he would give up everything for her. I guess that all parents are like that. So but that was him. He's very supportive. He's on diaper changing duties, which caused such a furor on social media.
Wow. Love that. Modern Asian man, go for it.
I feel like, I recently read an article where I think it was in the Atlantic, and it said something along the lines of that we should be grateful, but we shouldn't set the bar so low for men that, when they do what's expected of them, like as in what should be normal for them, when they carry out those duties, we're like awing and we're like swooning over that. It shouldn't be that way, because it takes two to make a baby, and so the care should be like a two-way street as well. It's not just on the mom. And often in the NICU, I saw a lot of babies, they were being looked after by nurses because their moms were too sick to come up, and the dads were at work or whatever, and it was like, okay, where's the mom? Where's the mom? They kept asking, where's the mom? And I'm like, the dad's there. That's fine. I'll crawl up when I can with my stitches, which I did, that very same night. But there's almost an element of guilt that if the mom isn't there, somehow it's an incomplete picture for the child. It shouldn't be that way. I think the responsibility should be equally distributed, though I know naturally, moms, we do things like, breastfeed and things like that, which goes above and beyond anything that they can do. But still, I think duty-wise and care-wise, the more they're involved, the healthier and the more emotionally stable the child will be. That's just my opinion. I mean, people can obviously differ on that with me. Happy to discuss.
No, I think I agree with you. I think you're right. The equal responsibility should be on both parents, not just the mother. It's really, really important to have that. I mean, my dad has 4 girls, and he, even though he was away from home, he made sure he did it to take care of us when my mum wasn't well. And I actually remember when my mum became very ill with one of her pregnancies, my dad was cooking food for us and doing all the things in the house, doing the house chores. And you never think that Asian men would be like that, but there are some amazing men out there who do support women. And you're right, we shouldn't have to be like, give them a pat on the back because they've done that. It's also their duty to do that. So totally agree with you on that. And I'm glad that Faisal is helping you out. So it's good. I'll come and sort him out.
He does, honestly. I don't know how I would have coped without him. So God bless him. Honestly, he's gone above and beyond what I expected from him. So even now she's with him just happily playing away. So he's feeding her
in the background somewhere. So Armeena, you've become a mother, and which is amazing, and that's like your biggest achievement. But what are you set to do next? Have you got any plans, or are you going to be going back into acting? And I know that obviously we met. So those who don't know, I met Armeena like almost 13 years ago, and at the time she wasn't an actress; she was modelling, and a very beautiful, stunning, and she still is stunning. I'm just saying, I just remember seeing her for the first time. Thought, who is this pixie angel-looking, pretty petite little girl? You look little. You weren't a girl. You're a woman, but you looked very petite, looked very young, and then you flourished into this amazing actress. And our paths have crossed over the years through media, through interviewing you. And like you, I'm very particular about friends I have. And I never really make friends with people who I interview, but there's some that you just kind of connect with. And I think we've had that connection for a very long time. And I'm proud to say that you are my friend. And you are part of my life, even though I don't speak to you, see you often, you are always in my prayers. But, it's been a bit of a hell of a journey for you, and I guess not one of an easy one. So I want to know, where is Armeena going next? But shed some light on your past experiences of, traveling through your career, from when I first met you to where you are now.
So just before we get into all of that, I just want to tell our audience how I remember you. It was my first international premiere in London, and I remember I was interviewed by a lot of people. What caught my attention with you was that you gave me that you took an interest and you'd done your research and you included me with the other principal cast members, and that felt so good. And I felt a very kind aura shine through you, and that definitely left a lasting impression. And I remember thinking to myself, I want to befriend this person because she's kind and she's intelligent and she's everything I look for in friends. And thinking back on it, you identified my little Chinese lantern amongst this floodlit stadium, and for that I'm always gonna be grateful to you. And I just think you're an amazing person, so thank you for that.
No, not at all. It was my duty to serve everyone equally, and everyone should be given a space to have those conversations, no matter how big or small anybody is. So I'm grateful that I got to meet you and have that and give you that exposure, because if God has given me that platform, then what am I exactly doing with that platform? And you do the same, in terms of your work. You use your platform, you help and support people, and sometimes it can cause a bit of controversy, but it's okay. I love that, but because it's great that we are open. And I think what's important is being you and being yourself and being your authentic self. And I think that's why we've continued our friendship for this so long, because of that reason.
It was a chance meeting of minds, and I think there's just gems like surrounding us, and we just have to pounce on those people who are genuine in this otherwise superficial world. In terms of future plans, I'm just taking it one day at a time. I was in talks for a few projects, but unfortunately, I'm one of those unlucky ones where my pre-eclampsia has continued. Not the full brunt of it, but I still have things like hypertension, and so I'm still on medication. So I'm hoping that'll subside. And uh, there's certain other consequences of that. I mean, I don't. We're still testing to see how, and I mean, what kind of damage that's caused to my organs. I mean, that sounds really, really serious, but it isn't. But I don't know any other way to put
Yeah,
it.
of
So
course.
we're still testing that, and hopefully, once I have the green light, then I can start planning again. But I have a vague idea. I do want to go back into acting, but maybe closer to home this time. You know, maybe go back to school for a little bit, relearn some of those things that I'm probably rusty on, and then see if I can be closer to husband and baby, because now there's a question of practicality, whether I can travel all those miles, you know, and be there in a different country, and the question is, you know, whether yeah, my baby can afford me that. I don't really want to leave her for a good short while yet, you know, because she
Sure.
needs me. So yeah, so
Yeah.
she takes priority at the minute.
Yeah,
But
of course.
let's see where life takes us.
Yeah. And, you know, you've been working as an actress for a very, very long time. And I'm sure there'll be your fans and your supporters who want to know some of the amazing things you've done. And I know that you've done some amazing projects. You've got to travel and see things. And there's been some funny stories in that journey. I remember the Janan story where you it was so hot apparently, and I think that your team members wouldn't allow you to I think they wouldn't allow you to go out or something like that in the heat, and they were playing pranks on you, and there was so much happening, so much fun things were happening, but there were also some challenges that you not in, you know, but as an actress who's from the West, who's Canadian originally, aren't you? You're Canadian.
Yes, I
Lives in
am.
the
Yeah.
UK, then traveled to Pakistan. There wasn't, you didn't just turn up there, did you? And just ended up as an actress, did you? It wasn't an easy journey.
No, not one that I planned out anyway.
Yeah.
It was never my intention to be an actor. In fact, the plan was to take up medicine, and that's what I was studying in school, etc. But I ended up at university here and pursuing a completely different course, and it was almost destiny. It was a hand of destiny, I'd say, and not something that I'd set out to do. It was only after the fact that I started taking courses for acting and took it full time. I just went with the flow. I never really planned anything, honestly. Um, I would have plans around my personal life, but never around my career, because plans almost never go to plan you once your career is involved, because there's so many outside elements to that you can't. Um, so, and I never really took it seriously to the point where it was like, okay, I have to secure this or I have to do it. It was always a vague projection. Oh, I'd like to be part of that project, and somehow that would manifest. I believe in the power of projection, and I do like wearing nice dresses on the red carpets. That I was such a girly girl, you know. I
And you
like
always looked
doing
amazing.
that. Thank you.
You
And
turned up late once though for my BBC interviews. I couldn't interview live. I was like, she's spending time getting ready. What's she doing? You didn't turn up late to my interview. You just didn't turn up at the time I wanted to interview you when I was live on the set for Janan. I don't remember. We were live for the BBC News thing. We just missed you that day. I think something must have happened. You must have got stuck in traffic in London. It's London for you.
Was it around the premiere?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we were coming from central London all the way to the O2, and I remember we had to make our own way. So we were
Oh,
stuck in a 3-hour
I
traffic. So
thought
that was,
so. I was like,
yeah,
where is
yeah.
she?
Yeah, no, it's
That's
not
okay.
like me to miss an interview with you, never,
No,
unless
no, no. I
something.
know. I'm joking. I'm saying she was just taking ages to get ready to do her hair and makeup. Got to look my best. I know you're not that sort of person because even though you don't strike me as someone who spends a lot of time getting ready. I don't think you do.
No,
No.
no. Well, I mean, my co-stars have certainly they created this whole narrative around me that I take a lot of time, but I would literally get up at 3 a.m. in the morning because I was getting ready for a character. And I have a
Right.
lot of hair. So
Yes,
this
you
would
do,
take
mashallah. Beautiful.
thank you. And this mane is like it's unruly. It's really
Right.
hard to kind of keep it under control, and it takes a long time to set.
Yeah, yeah, of
So the
course.
makeup, the makeup doesn't take long at all. It's my hair actually that takes the longest time.
Yeah,
All of my
I
hairdressers
hear
are
you.
forever. They're
And I don't have
forever
much
complaining.
hair. So I hear you, and I don't have much hair, and it takes ages to dry. It just sucks in water.
These things just take 20 minutes just to dry because for some reason
Right.
they just retain moisture. So,
Yeah.
but I hear now I'm gonna lose some of this postpartum because apparently you do lose a lot of hair, and I'm not looking forward to that. It's like I do like my hair despite it being so thick, but I don't want to lose
Listen,
it. But
you would have lost it by now if you had. It's just technical, or does it? Or does it happen?
apparently when your baby starts talking is when something happens and your hair just starts falling. So not something I'm looking forward to, but hey ho, let's see. Might not happen to me. Let's see. I'm
Well,
hoping.
well, maybe when you're back on set, your hair won't take so long to dry after that. Maybe there's a positive in that.
There is that. There is that.
So, Amina, you've always caused a bit of controversy. What is it that you say that causes people to shout out loud or to say certain things? And how do you feel? And how does it make you feel? Because you're saying it from a good place. And sometimes you're speaking about things that need to be said. And as somebody who has a huge following, I guess has a certain social responsibility, and when I look at some of your tweets and certain things that you say, I see so much nastiness in that. And I don't know how you deal with something like that. I mean, first of all, you're saying something that you want to share and express that needs to be heard. But then there's the other side to that. Would you share some thoughts about that and how it makes you sort of feel?
Initially, I mean, first of all, whatever I say comes from the heart. I genuinely believe those things. I don't do any kind of posturing on social media. It is
Mm,
me, genuinely. Um, I don't I don't even take this whole public persona into account when I'm posting things because I want to appear as real as possible because that is my job to be real as possible in a world where so many people are out in it for themselves. I've taken it upon myself to, because I subscribe to a set of universal values and principles, and everything that I put out is in conjunction with that, or I feel. Um, for example, I will forever be talking about women's empowerment. I will be talking about things that are morally correct, and I don't think about whether it might affect my career adversely. I don't think about that because I feel if the creator has given me this platform, then it's fine. It's my duty to be right about this. I need
mm,
to put out the right aspects of everything. I'm a human first before any religions or any cultures or anything like that. It has to be within those paradigms of human rights, and I try and stick to those. Sometimes people want to denigrate, they want to suppress um, women, other communities, etc. And I don't like that at all. So I will raise my voice. Minorities, rights, animal rights. I'm passionate about so many things. And if if I see someone misusing certain causes, I will call them out on it. I don't tend to attack individuals. I will go after the whole genre, if you like, of what is wrong with the society or how I perceive it to be. I've stopped giving an opinion on everything because I realize not everything needs an opinion. But where I feel are my areas of interest is something that I will definitely talk about. So, for example, animals is what I care about, women, babies, children, and just generally human rights, are my areas of interest. So I do like to talk about it. I will raise my voice where I feel the voiceless cannot project themselves. So my social media is at their disposal. So this is what I aim to do. I want to take on a lot more charitable work in the future. That's where definitely in regards to your earlier question about my future plans, that's definitely an area that I wish to be part of more, if you like, philanthropy, and I want to read more. I think you stop growing spiritually once you stop talking to all these fantastic authors in these books, because I see it as talking to these people. You can just curl up in a library somewhere and disappear for hours. But yeah, so it's something I want to do and just expand my mind and build on what I know, build on these values and principles and my understanding around them, deepen them, so I can partake in these debates a little bit more deeply. So that's the idea.
Well, a book is always a wealth of knowledge, and you're always gaining knowledge when you're reading from those books, and it's amazing to have those different experiences. So then tell me, because you have looked at subjects across one of the things that you've spoken about in the past, and I think you briefly touched earlier in the episode, that men and women is a whole toxic patriarchy issue, and you kind of touched on it earlier on, but let's delve into that a bit more. Why is that subject a personal interest to you? Why do you think this is an important subject to talk about?
So, terms of reference first, when I say toxic masculinity, I will mean misogyny and specifically hatred for women specifically. And I'm talking about Muslim Pakistani men in general, wherever they may be. Why it's so important for me to talk about this at this juncture in my life is because now I'm a mother to a little baby girl. And I think about, okay, I raised my voice, but now I'm going to raise it twofold, because like most new moms or like most parents, we want to see our kids thrive in a world where there's equality. Imagine if this goes unchecked, this hatred for women. If this goes unchecked, we could very well end up in a situation where it resembles Afghanistan, where women have no agency. I mean, imagine you're hungry and you can't even go out because you have no male guardian to accompany you. You're going to starve to death. A widow who might have a young baby can't get baby formula or whatever. You're not allowed to study. You're not allowed to work. How do you get past that? I don't want to live under that kind of authoritarianism and under the guise of religion. This is a war on women, I feel, and it's slowly creeping on us. And I think if we're not careful, we could end up in a situation where, there are many Afghanistans everywhere, even within the UK. You have communities that are very, very oppressive, where women aren't allowed to pursue higher education. I've personally come across um, situations like that. And what are we on now? Second, third generation British Asians, where girls are still being shipped off without their will to far off places to marry men that they have no idea who they are. And it's not right in this day and age to be denying and suppressing and almost dehumanizing sentient beings. We are sentient beings. We are equal to our male counterparts. So why should we be possessed or be downplayed in any sense of the word? We are as capable, as worldly, as intelligent, everything as our male counterparts. I feel this is a travesty that so much of this talent is going to waste. And it's high time we collectively came together and raised our voices harder, approach the bodies in charge, and really, really change policy wherever that may be. And for people trying to bring about an Afghanistan style regimes, I think they should feel the full force of the law, because that's a bastardization of my religion. This right wing has hijacked a religion which is so beautiful and liberates me on so many levels. And I feel this is because we conflate culture and religion, and culture can be really toxic if it goes unchecked, and if it's hand me down and you're just making stuff up as you go along. I've seen people online talk such nonsense, making up stuff about Islam, quoting all of these ambiguous hadiths, and I'm like, that's not where did you come up with that from? I've read my religion, I've had discussions around it. So please don't tell me that I don't know about my religion, because I do, and I have a very, very clear understanding of it. It's symbolic, it's an intelligent religion, not to be taken literally. It's so many layers to it. So I feel like this is where the war is. The war is started, and it's up to us how we're going to fight this. So now I'm in it for the long haul, for the sake of my child, for the sake of other children in the future, your future daughter, inshallah, when you have one, So we have to set our forts. We have to make them so we're ready to fight. We have to fight our corner.
No, I totally agree. And it's a very, it's a very challenging time, a very difficult time. There are a lot of, I feel that the world is going backwards rather than going forward in certain countries. We have so much wealth of knowledge, so much more exposure to information, yet we're not unlearning to learn to educate ourselves. And that is such a shame. And, that's why I was speaking to you about earlier on, having read some of the comments, some of the sort of trolling you have had, when people do say certain things to you, they don't know who you are, what you're going through, what your life is about. They don't know you personally. They just see like 1% of who you are, which is why I asked you that question about, we should be respectful and kind to each other, be compassionate, and learn to be tolerant of each other, no matter what someone else is going through, but also giving men and women the equal opportunities, because Islam, as you said, is a beautiful religion, and it teaches us to have equal rights. Women actually have more rights in so many ways than men do.
We do.
But how many people know that? Very few people understand and utilize that, or even put that into the system, whether it's in Sharia law and any other systems, or in culture, for example. And that's why I think it's really important to have these conversations. And I think, Armeena, that I think you're doing a great job in like really highlighting this through your work, through your social media, to talk out loud, to use social responsibility. And I hope that people can be more kinder to each other, especially on social media, because they don't know what you've just gone through. The things that you just shared with me about healing, being a mother, all of that is a lot to go through health-wise, mentally, physically. So that leads me on to, what part of your life needs healing?
I think every day we go through different life experiences, and every day you take a certain kind of bashing, if you like. We're out there, we're fighting so many different corners, we put on so many different hats, and that's true for all of us human beings. And our soul and our spirit sometimes can take a real battering. So I think healing has to be done almost every day, overnight. Whenever you get the time, you sit there, you introspect, and you arm yourself with the correct tools to what works for you. That may look different for different people. So, for example, the first thing is, if something has particularly affected you, I'm going to talk about myself personally. So, what I'll do is I will let the feeling consume me completely. I will let the waves pass me through without actually catching any of the feelings. And then say hello to them, and then bid goodbye to them like unwelcome guests is the best way to put it. And then I will look at the areas which have hurt me the most, why they've hurt me the most, or why that's caused pain. And then I will meditate, I will go out, or I will listen to music, or I will read a book, or I will read around it. And I will give myself time, because I have to be realistic with my goals, because some of these things can reoccur, the feelings can come back twofold. And I have to be kind to myself, and I have to allow it, the process to repeat until the pain lessens and it becomes a bit of a dull ache. I understand some hurts can never truly heal, but they can improve with time and become that much more less in terms of intensity. So and I mean, I understand and I appreciate that these things may look different for different individuals. For more severe traumas, one might need therapy, one might need medicine. Sometimes you don't feel things until years after. It's not an immediate thing. Sometimes it'll hit you. Like I was talking about the premature birth, it hit me a month after, and not at that time. So sometimes there might be childhood traumas, sometimes there might be school bullying. So for me, I was bullied at school, so, and that took a while to kind of heal and to learn to start valuing myself and say to my own self, almost counsel and pull myself out of that deep dark hole where you can find yourself in with those kind of early traumas. And I think for that, therapy is the best option, because they're professionals and they will pick out the exact moments of your life that need work if you're unable to identify them yourself. And there should be no taboo around that. I think in today's world, we all need a therapist, honestly, because the challenges are very different, and it's a very isolating sort of an existence, because we're all working, we're super busy, we don't have time for families. And so that can cause a lot of mental health issues. I certainly believe so. I live here alone with my husband, with only his mom, and I'm away from my family, and that can take a massive toll, on my mental health, sometimes finding yourself lonely. So that can be really daunting. It needs to be normalized. Okay, I have a therapist, or I'm seeing a psychologist, or whatever, or I'm on this medication. You're probably crazy. That thought process, it needs to be taken away and unraveled. So yeah. So these are some of the things you can do to heal yourself. But certainly for me, I'll put things away, come back to them at a later stage if they're of a particularly nasty nature. But on a daily basis, I do like to sit there and think about my day, what needs improving, and how can I personally evolve, if you like, almost even on an hourly basis. That's how much I like to invest in myself. I'm very conscientious of it. I want to make sure that I'm continuously growing. That's just me. So
well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I totally agree. Every day is a school day, and we always should be learning. And my motto is in life that the day I stop learning, the day I stop living.
Absolutely. It's a good motto.
I have many mottos, I think, but thank you. So I'm going to ask all my guests in season 3 some of these questions. You've just answered one of my questions already, so thank you so much for that. But this question is, what's your best character trait and what is your worst? And three best character traits and 3 worst character traits.
Tough one. I think I forgive very easily, and I think that is a double-edged sword. It can be, I mean, in today's world, it's often viewed as a weakness, but to me, it's a strength that you can forgive people and I genuinely forgive people if I want to forgive them. I do that easier. Of late and with age, I am becoming a little bit more skeptical, but but yeah, I definitely, I tend to do that. If someone apologizes, or if I feel that I've been in the wrong, you know what, I'll apologize. Like, hey, you know, I'm sorry. Sorry is a powerful thing. And, you know, sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean that you're in the wrong or whatever, but you value that relationship enough to say, okay, look, I value this, and so I'm sorry, let's move on. So I feel that lots of people don't have that ability, so I almost see it as a strength. Other character traits, I'm easily pleased. It doesn't take much to amuse me, to entertain me. Like I can find beauty, or like, I suppose I entertainment, if you like, in anything. It could be a traffic light. It might just amuse me how quickly it changes and how like people are just slamming on those brakes, or just go, or beauty in like in a single rose in a garden somewhere. I'm easily pleased. I don't need expensive gifts. You know, my husband is lucky almost in that way. So many of my guy friends tell me he doesn't have to give me much. It could just be even you know, a compliment, and it'll make my day.
That's a beautiful trait to have.
Thank you. But finally, I think I love to learn. I'm continuously learning, and I think that's a good trait, because then that means that you're growing, forever growing. And I said some time ago, and I shared that quote, I forgot that I'd said it, that you are allowed to change your mind, you know, on things, whatever ideas that you'd held before. And if you've progressed and evolved, you are absolutely allowed to rethink, redo. I wish, you know, there's so many moments in my life that I could redo based on the knowledge that I have now. But here we are, we get one life.
But you've grown and you learned.
Yes. So evolving. I like evolving, learning. The difficult traits, I'm hot-tempered, like I'll lose my temper.
Really?
And then the next, very, very quickly, like because I'm a very sensitive soul, and I just think that there's no need for anyone to be nasty to anyone. I'm from, okay, you need to have good manners school of approaching life. There's no need to be irate with anyone, you know. So if someone is doing that, then I tend to almost mimic that, you know, whatever their attitude is towards me. I'm very competitive. Also, it might not seem that way, but I am competitive.
No.
Ultra competitive. I need to tone that down actually, but yeah, I
I
am.
had no idea that I would never have thought that of you after knowing you for so long. Okay, that's
I
interesting.
I I didn't know that either, but when you sit with yourself, it's like, oh, okay. Oh, all right, okay, I didn't know that. So that's interesting. And then finally, I'm not very good with decision making. Like I think I tend to second guess myself sometimes. It's not always okay, I'm sure about this 100%. It's always is this right? Should I not? I need to ask 10 different people from my closest circle. It's like, should I be
Right.
doing it? It's like
Mm.
sometimes I do that, and that's something I'm working on at the minute. So it's about the whole healing and valuing yourself.
Yeah.
So that ties into that. So yeah, we're working on it.
Well, I love that. And thank you so much for being honest, because this is what this podcast is about: honest, authentic, real conversations. Nothing's always colorful as we see it.
Social
Right.
media is like this perfectly curated life, and it couldn't be further from the truth. It's
Mm-hmm.
what we choose to put out, and I think it's high time we changed that and actually started sharing what's real, or so
Yeah.
hopefully that's another goal to take upon. I've decided to take on this year. Let's see how that
Inshallah.
progresses.
And also another question that I'm going to be asking everybody: what does love mean to you, and how do you apply it?
So love is so many things, and it's such a high concept, and I don't think everyone is lucky enough to experience it. I don't mean romantic love. It can be
Yeah.
anything. I think truly the closest definition of love that I feel now, I think is a mother. It's because love is sacrifice. It's not jealous. It does not possess. It's it's all about giving, and it's unconditional. So it's it's more than a feeling. It's not something you fall into. It's a set of practical steps. It's working towards something. It could be a labor of love. There's just so many aspects to it, and I just feel you can't just skim over it. You have to feel deeply.
Mm.
um, Love is to be felt with intensity, to truly, truly experience it, and then be ready to come out broken the other end, not be scared, because that's what makes life so beautiful. You've got to have your battle scars, you've got to show them. Who wants a perfect vase anyway? You got to have a broken vase.
That's true. That is true. And anybody says they do have a perfect vase, then they're lying again.
Yeah, nobody does. And I think
No.
it's so important to just live life truly and fully, and internalize all the experiences and learn from it, because every person coming into our lives, in whatever capacity, will leave a mark.
Yeah.
So therein it ties with the whole impressions and how kind we are towards each other, because all of us, we've got battles that we're fighting. So my mantra is be kind to each other, because you don't know what the other person is going through. So doesn't
Yeah.
matter if they're an actor, doesn't matter what designation they're at, they're still human. We're all
Mm.
human first.
And my final question, in terms of this question I'm asking everyone: if you see a problem in someone else's life, how do you tell them that they need healing?
That's difficult.
Mm.
I'm not always able to do that truthfully, because
Mm.
someone could just then turn around and say, well, mind your own business, or
Mm.
they
Mm.
might just be in denial. You don't know what stage they're at, because not everyone wants help, or not everyone wants feedback. So I'm from the school of thought that, okay, I'll see it and I will judge the situation accordingly. If
Mm.
they're open to receiving feedback, then I will approach it in the best possible way that I can. Otherwise, there's the school of hard knocks. Okay, so if life is going to be continuously teaching you stuff, unless you learn it, you learn that lesson, you're going to be drilled with that throughout. So, and I think a lot of it does come down to self-awareness as well. If you have that self-awareness, are you not politically correct, but are you in line with your values and principles of humanity, basically? And whether you're open to people's feedback. So it just depends if they're open to it. Otherwise, I can't really do anything if someone doesn't want to receive help. They will do it in their own time. Like I said, healing and all of these things, you have to go at your own pace. You can't expedite or fast track this. You can't do that. So people go at their own pace. And then someone somewhere will tell them. But for me personally, it's very much what stage they're at. And I will evaluate that. So that's how I would approach that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, like you said, it's a very personal thing, but I think we need to have these sort of real conversations about it, because we all need healing, as you said perfectly. All of us need it every single day, and we just need to remind ourselves of that. And Armeena, as we kind of coming towards the end of Positive Solace, what are your final thoughts?
Well, life is too short. I think it is so short. And I feel like we're always on borrowed time. Time is never promised. So go for whatever it is that you've dreamed of, because don't worry about anyone else. Just pursue your dream. They're not going to put food on your table or, be there for you. So just pursue it, live your dreams, whatever it is that you are aiming for, and may you be successful. That's what I say to the world, or to my following, because I certainly went for it. So, and I lived my dream, and I continue to. I've been lucky. So, projection is important. Project a future, and then the universe will conspire in your favor to make that happen.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Armeena, thank you so much for joining us on Positive Solace. It's been amazing to talk to you about mum life, your career briefly as being an actress, and toxic patriarchy, and what does love and healing mean to you. And so while I wrap up this podcast, is there anything that you feel that we need to mention in this podcast before we finish the whole podcast recording that I may have missed, or you may like me to incorporate or value?
No, I think you've been really, really good. And I think the line of questioning has kept me succinct this time. So thank you for that.
No, not at all.
New episodes every Tuesday. Subscribe to Positive Solace on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and YouTube at Positive Solace, and at Attika C on all platforms. Contact us if there are any stories you'd like to share with us. Thank you for listening.